Hey guys, Aaron McKenzie here from Originofenergy. Today I'm going to talk about being an ethical carnivore minimalist. So for most people, being a carnivore and being ethical are a contradiction. But I would argue that being a carnivore, especially if you are going out of your way to get meat coming from a regenerative source where a farmer is looking after the soil and building topsoil with the meat that they're growing on grass, is a very ethical thing for the environment. And in terms of an animal's life and respecting that, now that comes down to how the animal is treated in its life. So an animal growing up and being raised and growing out in a regenerative farm is exposed to what would be more like its natural environment, only they don't have the predators. So it's even more ethical. The only predators are the humans, and then ideally, if we are to slaughter those animals, then we do it in the most humane way possible and quick and effective with minimal trauma to the animal. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm constantly striving to improve in terms of the food that I eat. So the source of the food is coming from a farm that's doing that. So that's why I've chosen, one of the reasons why I've chosen this carnivore path. The other reason as well is because eating plants is very complicated. So I love nutrition and I love learning about it. And the more you go into all the different plant things that can be problematic for a human being, the more complicated it gets. Obviously the best test we all have is just really observing what happens to our body and eating different foods. But the ultimate elimination diet is a carnivore diet. And then from that as a base, you can add one food at a time. So I do a nose to tail carnivore, so I eat the whole animal. Now I eat the whole animal. So I get one animal at a time and I finish the whole thing. I have had to get organ meats from other animals to supplement that because in Australia, now we still have some challenges with the way that animals are processed. So you can't always get the organ meats with the whole carcass, which is a bit annoying, but it's a process. I've just got 2 lambs and they're 2 whole bodies, and I've got the organ meats to go with it, which is great. So that means that I'm going to be eating these 2 lambs that come from a farm in South Australia. And when I'm eating these 2 lambs, I'm basically eating the sunlight that was harvested from the grass that went into the roots of the plants and developed that plant. And then when the animal ate that grass, it got all the nutrition that came from the grass because the roots of the grass went down into the soil and pulled minerals up, and it made its body out of the pasture that it was consuming. And then when I eat it, I'm eating that. And that's a beautiful thing that we can all do, and it's just getting back to the source of our food and where it comes from and what are the inputs that are going into it and what are we getting out of it. So a lot of people are very confused about the whole environmental aspect of eating meat. It is quite unfortunate, especially with the feedlot systems that we have and the factory systems that we have. Now I choose to eat ruminant animals, so just beef and lamb. My wife has chicken, a bit of pork and whatever, but I predominantly eat those because from my understanding and from everything that I've looked at, that seems to be the most viable option for healing the planet as well as healing ourselves. So chickens and pork will have huge grain inputs, even in an organic system. It's very hard to raise chicken as a meat bird for human consumption and grow all your own grains to feed the animal. It can be done, but it's nowhere near as efficient as using grasslands and using ruminant animals on those to feed that almost 8 billion people on the planet. And this is because if you look at the planet and the terrestrial surface, the land surface, it is most suited to pastoral-based agriculture. Because of the large grasslands that we've had in the past, and that's what grew or developed that topsoil and harvested the carbon from the atmosphere and put it into the soil. And we are basically spending our inheritance with the way that we live. So the crop growing predominantly, I would say most of it on the planet, is all off-gassing. So it's losing topsoil. So unless people are using composting methods and using rotational crops to ensure, and no-till methods where they're not tilling the soil, which is very rare, unfortunately. Most of the plants that people are eating are causing soil to go into the atmosphere, and that's carbon in the atmosphere, plus the inputs of the fossil fuel being used to farm that land, whether it's through pesticides, herbicides, whether it's through the fertilizer, whether it's through transportation, whether it's through the use of fossil fuels to irrigate, or whether it's the use of fossil fuels to farm with tractors, combine harvesters and machinery. All of those are inputs, and all of those need to go into the equation. Now, an animal is eating the grass. That's its fuel. And yes, when we slaughter the animal, there's shipping and transportation, but that can all be improved. And it can run off a real-time sunlight operation. It can run on real-time sunlight, which is such an important factor for our future. If we are going to continue our addiction to fossil fuels and ancient sunlight and ancient soil, in the sense that the soil that's been built over time from the grasslands, from the herbivores, and just spending that growing crops and just putting that up into the atmosphere and creating dust bowls, we have to really think, how long can we continue this with a growing population? And the only way I can see forward is that we actually look at the situation for what it is, and look at the propaganda that's coming out about eating meat, and the whole process of reprogramming the human to Disneyfy all animals. So we seek to humanize them through animations and movies, so that way we think of them like that. And don't get me wrong, I have 2 dogs. I grew up on a farm. I love animals, and they have a mammalian brain which has the capacity to love and has emotions. And we need to respect that by all means. But we also need to respect what we are and what they are. And they are animals, and they can be part of the solution, especially ruminant animals with 4 stomachs that have evolved to eat grasses, which we cannot eat as much as we'd like to. I'm sure some people would, but we can't. Gorillas have very different digestive systems from us, and they have to chew and eat all day. They have 1 stomach, but they have a massive colon. We don't have that. So we don't have the luxury of doing that. Now, if we have to keep using these farming methods that are going to have huge fossil fuel inputs in order to grow the food that we're eating, we can't keep that going. We have to run off real-time sunlight. We can't run off ancient sunlight. So that's why this path to me is more ethical, it's more moral, and it's environmentally friendly. Now, I also, with the minimalist part, I'm just eating 1 animal at a time, really simple. Plus, I don't like plastic, so I get whole bodies delivered, or I go to the farm and pick them up, and I break them down and I put them into stainless steel containers. And then I put that in the freezer. So there's obviously an input that's going in, that electricity to keep the freezer going, as well as the manufacturing that went into these stainless steel containers, but they're reusable, and my goal is to keep using them for the rest of my life. We do have solutions with compostable cryovacuuming and packaging. It's still not utilized, and we really need to put the pressure on producers to start doing that for all foods. It's really crazy. If you look at any piece of plastic, it should all plastic should stay on it 500 years, because that's how long it's going to take to break down. And people are just purchasing it all the time. It's crazy. You go to the supermarket, all the organic section within the supermarket has everything wrapped in plastic. So it's like the biggest contradiction. It's like, well, we've got this, but we're going to wrap this thing in, but this came from an organic farm. So it's just another input, and it's just another challenge that we have for the environment. So we really have to look at the whole picture. We can't just look at one component and break it down and have a judgment on it. So all of us have got blood on our hands. So I try really hard to do the right thing. But if you've got money in the bank, in insurance, in superannuation, that money, I guarantee it, is going to be supporting either broadacre chemical-based agriculture, crop farming, is going to be supporting food processing companies, or it's going to be supporting pharmaceuticals, or all of the above. either way, that money is going to be supporting the degradation of our environment and the system that is polluting the planet and feeding us substandard food that is going to make us sick and then further support the pharmaceutical industry. So it is a very conscious process to try and find a viable solution. And I don't have all the answers. I'm just trying to find an answer, and I'm just trying to share it through these videos and the work that I do, so that way at least I get people thinking and looking at it from a different perspective. Now, I try and have this as simple as possible. For me, I have 2 to 3 meals a day on Carnivore, and then I'll have a mixture of either raw, have slow cooked, have seared, and then I use all of the bones from the animals to make broth. So I'm really trying to get the most out of it and ensure that I have optimal nutrition and well-being, and that way I can share what I believe in with the world and stay passionate and stay healthy and enjoy this experience. And that's what I want to share with everyone, is that they can find that path for themselves as well. So a lot of people that have got this far in the video are just thinking, this guy is wrong, the vegan thing is the way to go for health, for the environment, and here's all the research to back it up. These scientists are saying this, and and this person. Rather than just quote research, rather than just saying, well, this study, this university study, and rather than getting to the root of where all the funding's coming for all of that, go and visit a regenerative farm. I challenge you, go and seek it out and find the people that are claiming to be able to use ruminant animals to build topsoil and to improve the fertility of the soil and improve the health of the environment. Visit and prove it wrong. Rather than arguing about the details, we don't have time to just quote university research and quote people that are looking at the world and looking at the environment with a myopic perspective. We have to take action, and we have to start being proactive about change, rather than just thinking that so-and-so has put this out there, I want to feel right about myself and my views, so I'm just going to quote that. Just do the work. Get out there. If you're really passionate about this, like I am, I want to go and visit farms. I want to find the answer. I've got theories and ideas about what I think is right, just from my own experiences of growing up on a farm and for meeting and different farmers and visiting farms, but I'm still trying to evolve my approach and find the truth. And we all need to do that. And before we get too aggressive or upset, we need to think, okay, there's almost 8 billion of us on the planet, and we need to find a solution for all of us so we can get along and enjoy this experience. So, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some ideas, if you are a carnivore, how to do it in a really effective way. It costs me so much less by getting whole bodies and also freezing them, and it's so easy. Like, I don't have to spend time going and shopping. I've got it all there. If you have any questions or suggestions for videos in the future, put it in the comments below. I'm here to try and find an answer and help others that are embarking on a journey for optimal health. I'm taking the path of carnivore. Now, I don't think this extreme approach is right for everyone. It's just something that I'm doing. But a carnivore diet is kind of the ultimate elimination diet. So I've had so many challenges with different plant foods, whether it's phytates, whether it's oxalates, whether it's salicylates, whether it's lectins, whether it's gluten. All these different things have challenged my digestion. So this is like a very simple minimalist way to kind of get rid of everything and just build it out from there. So whether I add more plant foods back in is just, I'm going to see just what I do over time. But for the moment, I'm just sticking to lamb and beef and the organ meats that go with those animals. And it's very simple. So for my family, they still eat vegetables, meat, poultry, dairy, fruit, all those different things. So my wife and son eat those. I'm not going to stop them from eating that. This is my personal experiment. But interesting, my 2 dogs, Pomeranians, they both eat the same food as me. So when I'm prepping my dinner, I'm making theirs, and they eat exactly like me. So we'll see how they go with it. They're off, they never had any grains, but all the dogs and the cats of the world are suffering like the humans with the processed food. Another interesting observation. But yeah, I'm here, and let's make this happen together. All of us on the world can come together and find a way to find a viable solution that helps improve the health of humanity and builds the environment that supports us. So see you soon, guys.